Welcome to Sleep Flow Studio, where the world slows down and history drifts into dreams. Tonight we travel back in time, not to a moment of glory or invention, but to an era whispered about in mystery, shrouded in silence. An age that may never have existed as we imagine. They call it the Dark Ages. Close your eyes. Let the hum of the night guide you. Breathe in, breathe out, and as your thoughts fade into the rhythm of sleep, the veil of time lifts. Once upon a time, between the fall of Rome and the rise of the Renaissance, there stretched a shadowed century, or perhaps many. Historians once claimed that Europe had fallen silent. No progress. No art, no science, only darkness. But what if that darkness was a trick of the light? In the quiet glow of your imagination, picture a candle flickering in a stone room. The flame dances over scrolls, half-burned maps, and ink-stained fingers. Outside, the night hums softly with the sound of a quill scratching on parchment. A monk sits hunched over his desk in a monastery somewhere in the heart of Europe. The year is 614 or so, he's been told. He doesn't know that centuries later people will call this era the Dark Ages. He doesn't know that one day, some will say, it never truly happened at all. Centuries after his time, whispers began to circulate among scholars. What if the years between 614 and 911 AD were invented? What if a handful of rulers, perhaps the Holy Roman Emperor, Otto III and Pope Sylvester, altered the calendar to place themselves closer to the prophesied year? 1,000? According to this theory, nearly 300 years of history were fabricated. Wars, kings, even entire generations might have been written into existence by ink and ambition. But as you breathe deeply, let's not rush to judgment, for tonight isn't about proving or disproving. It's about wandering through the fog of forgotten time. Imagine you're walking through a medieval forest. The air smells of moss and rain. The trees rise high like cathedral pillars. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell rings, soft, uncertain. Its echo fades into mist. You step into a village square, where children chase each other through the mud, and merchants call out prices in languages long lost. They seem real. Their laughter, their fear, their hunger, undeniably human. Could they be imagined? Or were they as real as you and me, only hidden behind the dusty curtain of rewritten history? Sleep now as we drift deeper. The candle flame flickers again. It becomes the sunrise over a forgotten empire. Stone by stone, the world rebuilds itself. Not in darkness, but in quiet light. Because even in the so-called Dark Ages, there were thinkers and dreamers. Monks preserving ancient knowledge. Artists illuminating manuscripts with gold. Farmers learning to harness rivers and wind. Each life a spark, a breath, a heartbeat in time. Perhaps history's biggest cover-up isn't what we think was hidden, but what we failed to see, the light that still burned quietly beneath the veil. The candle still burns, its flame smaller now, but steadier. The monk, whose name history forgot, dips, his quill once more into ink as black as midnight. Outside, snow drifts against the monastery walls. The year, he writes carefully, is 912. But what if, quietly, invisibly, someone had already erased the years before? Breathe in, breathe out. Let your body sink deeper into stillness. As your thoughts drift like smoke, we move backward through shadowed centuries. Time was once a fragile thing. It wasn't the ticking of clocks or the glow of screens. It was measured in harvests and moons, in candles burned and prayers whispered. The Roman Empire had fallen, and the calendar they left behind, the Julian calendar, still ruled the days. But the calendar had a flaw. It was slowly drifting, losing minutes and hours every year. Centuries later, this flaw would lead to confusion, and some claimed to a grand deception. According to a strange theory whispered among historians, the phantom time hypothesis. In the years between 14 and 901 AD never truly happened. They were added, perhaps by mistake, perhaps by design. The Emperor Otto III, it said, wanted to reign in the year 1000, a date of divine significance. So with the help of the Pope, he adjusted history's timeline, creating centuries that never were. Imagine that. 300 phantom years, entire generations of kings and kingdoms that might exist only in ink and imagination. But let's not rush. Let's walk slowly through the quiet halls of that monastery again. The monk's candlelight flickers over a text he copies. The Annals of the Franks. He doesn't know his handwriting might one day be part of a centuries-long illusion. He's just trying to preserve what little remains of the world before him. The pages he writes are rough and uneven. The letters curl in strange ways, Latin fading into something new. Something that would one day become the languages we speak now. Outside, wolves howl in the forest. Snow whispers against the window. Time, it seems, stands still. You drift further into the sound of turning pages. Each one brings a soft sigh, a distant echo of the past. The monk's world is not dark at all. It's filled with color. The blue of crushed lapis in the paint of his manuscripts, the red of candle wax melting onto parchment, the gold of dawn touching the stone floor. The so-called Dark Ages were not empty. They were quiet, and in that quiet seeds of the future were sown. Imagine the people who lived then. Blacksmiths shaping iron with rhythmic strikes, weavers humming softly as their looms clicked, children chasing shadows through ruined Roman walls. Life went on even if the dates were wrong. The sun rose. The crops grew. Time flowed no matter what numbers men placed upon it. Perhaps history's biggest cover-up was not forged by power, but by misunderstanding. A simple misalignment of calendars, a slip of the quill, a dream mistaken for a record. As you listen, the monastery fades. The candle's light becomes a golden haze, and you find yourself floating through centuries like a feather in slow motion. You drift over sleeping villages, across oceans, through libraries filled with dust and whispers. Each place holds fragments of truth, of memory, of hope, and somewhere hidden beneath layers of time lies the secret the world forgot. Sleep now. Let the story linger at the edge of your dreams. In the next chapter, we'll follow the trail of those who kept the light alive. The scribes, the mystics, and the forgotten scientists who built bridges from the darkness into the dawn of the Renaissance. The candle becomes the sun again, rising over stone towers and frozen fields. The air is sharp with morning frost, and the monastery bells echo through the valley. Somewhere below those hills, a river moves like a silver thread through the mist. The world is waking slowly, but the light feels hesitant. as if uncertain whether it is allowed to return. Breathe in, breathe out. Let your body grow still as the story deepens. Inside the scriptorium, the heart of the monastery, a small group of men and women bend over their desks. Quills scratch in soft unison like insects in summer grass. The smell of ink and wax fills the air. These are the keepers of the flame, the ones who refuse to let knowledge die. They copy everything they can find, scraps of Greek philosophy, fragments of Roman law, poems half remembered from a lost civilization. Sometimes they do not understand the words they preserve. They copy them because they must. To the outside world, it seems that progress has stopped. To those inside these walls, every letter is an act of defiance against oblivion. Imagine a young novice named Elena. She is barely 17 and has never left the valley. Her hands tremble as she writes, but her mind is sharp. One night, while the others sleep, she finds an ancient text. Its ink faded, its edges torn. She cannot read all of it, but she sees a word she knows. Stellae, stars. Night after night, she copies the symbols by candlelight. She doesn't know that the text once belonged to an astronomer named Ptolemy. She doesn't know that her careful strokes are saving the mathematics that will one day guide sailors across oceans. She only feels that these marks matter, that they connect her to something vast. Outside snow falls. The year is written as 738 or maybe 1038. The numbers no longer matter. Across Europe, in quiet corners, others like Elena work unseen. In Ireland, monks carve spirals of gold and blue onto parchment. In the deserts of the East, scholars of Baghdad translate Greek into Arabic, Arabic into Latin. In the Alps, hidden caves protect books wrapped in cloth and beeswax. The world calls it darkness, but beneath that veil, sparks flicker everywhere. Time drifts. Centuries fold and unfold like soft fabric. Calendars are adjusted. Kings rise and vanish. Yet through it all, the written word survives. When the candle finally gutters out, Elena closes her book and whispers a prayer, not for herself, but for whoever will one day read her words. She cannot imagine the cities, the machines, the telescopes to come. She simply believes that someone somewhere will still care about the stars. And now, as you lie here breathing slowly, you have become that someone. You are reading her work across 1,000 silent years. The distance between you and her is measured not in centuries, but in breath. You inhale, she exhales. The line continues unbroken. Perhaps that is the real secret. History is never truly lost. It sleeps, and in dreams it wakes again. The night softens. The air hums with quiet gratitude. You are safe. The world is still. Let the whisper of the past cradle you toward rest. The night has grown warmer. The wind that once howled around the monastery walls has turned into a soft, steady breath against the hills. Somewhere far away, a river moves, carrying pieces of light across its surface. In that stillness, the world begins to rebuild itself, stone by stone, thought by thought. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the rhythm of that river guide you. Outside the cloistered walls, people are beginning to move again. The Roman roads are cracked, the city's half empty. But small hands are already setting new foundations. A farmer experiments with a stronger plow made from iron. A builder notices how an arch can hold more weight than a beam. A woman weaving cloth discovers a pattern that traps warmth against the skin. They are not recorded in any book, yet they are the silent architects of a new world. In a quiet village along the Rhine, A carpenter named Arno listens to the hum of the wind through his tools. He doesn't know that his design for a simple water wheel will one day power entire towns. He just knows that turning water into motion feels like catching part of the divine. Every night before sleep, he sketches what he sees, circles inside circles, blades curving like petals. By morning, he has forgotten the drawings, but his hands remember. Generations later, those same shapes will reappear in Leonardo's notebooks, glowing with recognition. The story of progress is not written in ink. It is whispered from hand to hand. A baker teaches his son how heat rises. A mason shows his apprentice how to balance stone against gravity. Each lesson becomes a thread, woven quietly through time. It is how the world keeps learning, even when the light seems gone. Far to the south, in the deserts where night is endless and stars burn close enough to touch, scholars are watching the sky. They mark the movements of Mars and Jupiter with instruments of brass. Their charts are so precise that centuries later, sailors will use them to cross oceans. The names of those scholars will blur. Al-Khwarizmi, Al-Hazen, Fatima al-Fihri, but their thoughts will live on in every compass, every telescope, every number that measures the universe. Even the word algorithm, that heartbeat of the digital age, comes from one of them. A name turned into a sound turned into the logic that drives the future. Back in Europe, cathedrals begin to rise from the ground like mountains of stone and glass. The architects are anonymous, their plans drawn in sand and memory. They have no rulers to measure with, only ropes and intuition. They build upward toward the sky, each arch a prayer frozen in motion. Inside those cathedrals, light bends through stained glass, painting colors across the faces of peasants and kings alike. To stand there is to feel that the darkness has finally lifted. But the truth is quieter. The darkness never truly existed. It was a story told by those who forgot to listen to the silence in between. You breathe slowly now. The fire of invention glows low and steady. The world that once seemed lost is learning to speak again. Words return. Idea, forma, ratio, vita. Shape, reason, life. They move from tongue to tongue, across lands and languages, like embers passed from one traveler to the next. Each one a spark of light carried through the centuries. As you drift, you can almost hear them, the hammers, the looms, the pages turning, the laughter of builders testing bridges with bare feet. The dark ages were never silent. They were filled with quiet work. Human hands guided by wonder, building the morning that would one day be called the Renaissance. Let that thought rest with you. Breathe in the faint scent of dust and parchment, of stone warming under sunlight. You are lying in the echo of all those who built before you. You are part of the same long line of makers and dreamers. Sleep, and let their whispers become your lullaby. The world is still half asleep. Mist clings to valleys and the smell of rain lingers in the streets. Somewhere a bell rings. Not a warning, not a call to prayer, just a sound to say that morning has come again. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out gently. Let your shoulders loosen, your jaw soften. You are lying inside the moment when night becomes day. In a workshop in Florence, a young apprentice sharpens a block of marble. He doesn't yet know he will one day carve a statue that people will travel across continents to see. He only knows the feel of the stone beneath his fingers and the quiet joy of shaping something that lasts. Light from the window falls across his tools. Dust floats through it like gold. This is how the Renaissance begins, not with trumpets or kings, but with ordinary hands touched by sunlight. Across Europe, walls are covered with color again. Painters mix ground minerals into pigment. Blue from lapis, green from malachite, red from crushed insects. The world that was once gray is suddenly alive with images. Saints, cities, faces, dreams. Books that had slept for centuries are copied once more. And the words of Greece and Rome breathe again through the mouths of new readers. In the corners of libraries, scholars whisper of physics and poetry, of medicine and the movement of the stars. Every idea seems to lean forward, hungry for the light. If you listen closely, you can hear how the centuries fit together. The monk's quiet copying in his cold monastery, Elena tracing the words stellae, the builder watching his arches rise, and now the painter lifting his brush. None of them knew the others existed, yet their work fits like pieces of one vast design. Time was never lost. It only paused long enough to breathe. Breathe with it now. The air around you feels wider. The candle that guided us through the dark burns low, but it has done its work. You can almost smell the dawn, clay, rain, and the faint sweetness of new bread from a nearby oven. Outside, ships are being prepared for voyages that will stretch beyond maps. Inventors tinker with gears and mirrors. Poets test new words, trying to describe the feeling of seeing the world reborn. Everything hums with quiet anticipation. As you rest, you can feel how history itself relaxes. The fear that the world had once fallen into darkness is gone. In its place is the simple truth that life continued, sometimes dim, sometimes bright, always moving forward. The cover-up was never a conspiracy written in secret ink. It was the way memory blurs when we look too far back. We called it dark only because we had forgotten how to see in candlelight. Now the sun rises fully. The city glows. The bells ring not in warning but in celebration. 1,000 tiny sounds, footsteps, voices, laughter fill the air, and together they sound like one long exhale. Breathe with them. You've come through the dark. You've walked the forgotten roads and listened to the quiet builders. You've watched the first light touch the stone. Sleep now if you wish, or simply lie still and let the warmth of the new day settle into you. The story has no real ending because history never stops. It only waits for the next dreamer to wake and begin again. The candle fades, the page closes, and the night gives its last sigh. From everyone here at Sleep Flow Studio, good night. May your dreams be filled with gentle light, and may you always remember there were never truly dark ages, only quiet ones waiting to be heard.